Welcome to a new episode of Hair Talks. Have you ever wondered what does it take to turn one salon into one of the largest salon chains in the UAE and then take that brand internationally? Today's guest did not just build a salon. She built a culture and a franchise model that is now crossing borders. If you ever dreamt of scaling your salon, this conversation might completely change your thinking about growth. Let's welcome the founder of Tara Rose Salons and now the franchise in Bahrain, Tara Rose herself. So welcome, Tara.
What an amazing intro, Rowan. Thank
you, Tara. We're really excited for the episode today, to be very honest. And one of the main questions that I was thinking about opening this podcast with is asking you what really inspired you to open your first salon.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure it's probably the amazing story that everybody may think, but I think I just got to the point where I was so fed up of everywhere that I worked. I'd moved from Dubai and then to Abu Dhabi and just nothing, I just didn't feel inspired anymore. And it was actually my husband that pushed me to do it. He'd read this book and then all of a sudden we were opening businesses. So yeah, I think it was a mixture of just, I didn't want to be a number anymore. And I wanted to work somewhere with meaning. I didn't know it at the time, but it was from a place of, if I don't do this, what am I going to do? And to be honest, I thought I could do it better. But that's, I think, what every hairdresser thinks when they open their first salon.
Yeah, exactly.
I can do it better. Yeah. But yeah, wow, what a shock. You know, it's the stuff that comes afterwards. But yeah, ultimately that was 11 years ago and I was alone. And yeah, what that has taught me, I will always be forever grateful for.
So Tara, we've had such an amazing journey over the last 8 years, and to see your growth and your salons within the UAE grow so much. But today we're really here to focus on the franchise and the franchise model. And the first one is happening in Bahrain. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
So tell us, why did you decide to open in Bahrain as your first franchise?
You know, we've been working on the franchise model for a while. Because, you know, I knew I wanted to scale, but I knew I didn't want to own any more myself. You know, I love the industry, but I love to inspire, motivate, teach, you know, and that was where the franchise model came up. So, you know, I wanted to really put a spin on it as well, you know, not just a manual, not just your logo, you know, it was about transferring the culture. And then anyway, Daisy, who worked with me for 10 years, she'd moved to Bahrain. And she'd messaged me and she went to work somewhere and she was like, wow, like I didn't realize, you know, quite what I had, you know, and I think nobody really does until they don't have it anymore.
The systems.
So, yeah. So she was like, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to give it a go. And I said, look, Daisy, this is what we're doing. You know, I don't know if this is something that you're interested in, but I mean, it would be amazing to have you as the first. And yeah, she was thinking of something much smaller initially. But then with everything that went on and our support, you know, she's gone like 3 times the size. And for her, you know, watching her on this journey gives me goosebumps. It's so rewarding, you know, because she's pretty much getting 11 years worth of knowledge but not just knowledge, that support,
and systems,
you know, the systems, everything that, you know, has almost broken me over the years, but ultimately that's what's meant to happen because you learn from it. But, you know, I left there last week feeling like, you know, I know what I can do here. And that for me now is everything that I want to do moving forward. It's not about expanding massively and taking on loads of franchises. It's working with purpose and being able to make a difference with owners that don't know these things and that I can ultimately bring in our systems, our technologies, but not just that, the culture, the education, you know, and my aim is to rewrite what people think about franchising.
Do you think this was easier having this done with Daisy because she was with you, or it is easy to implement even if someone did not really work in Tara Rose Salon previously?
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing is, the systems are always built. you know. And I don't think, you know, you could look at it either way, easier or harder. Like Daisy for me is like my baby. Like I went there last week and I, you know, few people were really messing her around, you know, and I'm like, it's like I feel that pain, you know, and like, you take it really like, so you can look at it either way. But again, it's not, okay, you could give somebody a manual, but it's not just about that manual, it's about the people that choose it as well. So a lot of people, when they go into franchising, it's about taking the manual and selling the model. And this is where if somebody, we again, and it's the same for the salon, it comes down to values of what somebody wants, you know, and a mindset thing. So it won't be for everyone. Like my salon is not for everybody. The same will be for the franchise. So I believe if you're somebody that wants more and wants mentored and, you know, is open to new ways of learning, then it could be Daisy and it could be somebody else. Because once you have that inside of you, you're moldable, you're ready for it, you know, and you understand what's ahead. So yeah. Either way, like I'm very emotionally attached to Daisy. I had an argument with the fit out guy. I was like, you realise like she's like my baby. So of course I'm going to take this because they don't like me.
And I think the great thing with having Daisy is that already she understands your culture through and through, right? She's been with you on your full journey, which is amazing.
And this is it. But the thing is now, Daisy gets to start again with a fresh mindset. Yeah. So everything that we're bringing in, she gets straight away. But for me to try and implement it into my own business is very difficult as well because people have been with me such a long time. So making change is not as quick.
Yeah, it can be quite challenging.
It can be. And, you know, but again there, she goes in, they don't know any different, you know. And not that there's anything wrong with like the way we do things, but, you know, I'm always trying to push the boundaries, grow, build. And not everybody always gets that, you know, and that's fine also. But yeah, she gets that fast forward. And it's just so nice to see somebody really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So let's go on to the systems then. What kind of systems have you had to build to kind of support any salon owners that potentially may want to kind of join with a franchise from Tara Rose? What would they expect to see?
So it was always about how do we protect the brand, number one. That was, you know, when you make big decisions, they can't be emotional. So number one was how do we protect the brand moving forward? And that came down to technology and systems. And how do we bucket everything? And how can we monitor, you know? So over the last few months, I've built AI technology dashboards that basically sync everything, you know. You can see but I've built it in a way of every step of my career. So I built it as me being a stylist. What did I not know? How do I grow my career? How do I understand to control my salary every month? So that's the first lens. And then I built it from a manager view. So before I was an owner, I used to manage for people. And, you know, it's very hard to keep the team inspired and keep the owner happy. And then from an owner view, my pain points of like, where is this money? Like, I can't see it, you know, and when to scale, when not to scale, you know, who's performing, who's not, who needs coaching. And then obviously from a scaling perspective, you know, you understand that how you can't tell what's going on in your business just by looking at the booking system. So yeah, I've built these AI dashboards through these 4 lenses, and we get to monitor data through like a scorecard and health and, you know, by key metrics like client numbers, rebooking, you know, you get to measure if something isn't right straight away. We have synced CRM systems as well. So basically as part of the franchise, they get a full CRM system, AI dashboards, and then obviously the booking system as well. So we have one linked system. So all the branches are inside, and then obviously the franchises go inside of it. So that's the first way of how we protect the brand, because the numbers tell a story. You know, it's not about how much revenue they're bringing in. It's the other stuff, you know, retail percentage, you know, are they rebooking new clients? Are they coming back? So that's the first thing there. But then off the back of that is the coaching, the mentoring, you know, we do, you know, when we look at the numbers, it's built for, you know, coaching these people and stuff. So yeah, that's the first thing. If you're able to see the data clearly, it always tells a story.
And how do you feel, Tara, after all these years? How do you feel you've evolved and your leadership has evolved in, I've seen such a huge transformation. So how do you do this?
I think, the evolution always comes from the pain.
Yeah.
You face the pain, and you grow from it. Like, I've had multiple huge low points, but some amazing high points, but they have always come from something painful, because you don't grow when you're the same, you have to face these things. But also as well, my biggest thing is I'm always working towards the next version of myself. I understand to get to the next level, what got me here won't get me there. So a version of me has to evolve in order to get there. And I think this is what a lot of people don't realize about growth is you have to already be that person to get to the next level. So I would say, they say having a business exposes every single version of you, the good and the bad. But you learn along the way that that's how it's meant to be. So many people try and hide away from it and don't want to talk about it. But I'm like, yes, right, we've got a breakdown. We've got some movement.
So, Tara, what habits contributed the most into this growth?
Me knowing that nobody is in charge of my happiness apart from me. I think people think success is money. It's not. It's happiness and purpose. And then understanding that I am the only person that will either stop me or get me there. But I think it's growing your skills. When you grow your skills, you grow your confidence, which then means you're able to make better decisions. And, throughout my career, I've gone into the blame game of this, and this. And then it's always the realization of, it's me. It's me again,
Yeah.
And I find that really empowering because when you know, because you are the only person that you can rely on, and no matter how difficult it is, there is always a solution, and normally facing that solution, it may take you 6 months, it may take 18 months, 2 years. But if you consistently, work towards that thing that you need to overcome, plus you really do need to have a belief in the bigger. If you don't have a belief in the bigger, what do you have to work towards?
That's really inspiring, actually. I have a question, actually, and it's a bit personal, which is regarding your personal well-being. Because as you just mentioned, when someone is a business owner, you have a lot to do and you have a lot of, low points and high points. So how did you maintain your well-being or in your personal life, even balancing with you being a mom, a wife, and then having the business?
There is no balance in my life.
So that's the reality.
That's the reality. But do you know what? As I'm getting to this stage of my career, I am starting to find that more. But I think, people say it's about balance. So if you want something has to suffer to get there, But it's understanding that, okay, that's too far now. You've got to come back and you've got to rebalance.
Yeah, so understand the point where
so
you
it's
need to.
Understanding that point. Many times I've not understood that point. But because I've educated myself on the other stuff, I can now flag it when it's happening. For me, personal growth and business is nothing to do with a hair salon. It's the other stuff. It's your emotional well-being. It is your financial, financial well-being, intellectual, your social, like the people that are around you. So and when you really understand that there's something going wrong in your life and you can put it into one of those pillars, you then know what you can do, and focus on that month. But I've only learned that through not knowing that, and I found that out the hard way. But I think you have to listen to your body. Like this week, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb mode because I'm just like, I need to quieten my brain down. I need to sleep. I feel like I've not slept properly in like months. But, we don't always see those things. And I haven't. And I have struggled for a long time over the years with mental well-being and people pleasing and, tormenting myself. But I'm glad that I did, because I wouldn't be the person that I am today without it.
Yeah. It's good that you're learning also and developing with whatever experience you're going through.
Yeah.
And this is what really matters.
Yeah. And I think people don't realize we're put on this planet to evolve, Like we have to get better at stuff. It doesn't need to be a textbook, but we've got to feel better about ourselves, grow that intellectual muscle on like, how to not be so, affected by what people say, know. But people don't acknowledge when they learn, which means then they're not grateful for the lesson. But I think in every day, like for me, is looking at what was the win from today. Because when we start to look for the wins rather than the bad, things start to get better.
And stop playing the victim.
Yeah. No time for that.
And then moving forward, Tara, so Bahrain will be opening very soon. Yes. Which is super exciting. And then for the future, what does your perfect franchise partner look like? What is their mindset? If you're looking for your perfect franchise partner, who is that person?
Somebody that it's not about knowing it all. It's about wanting and looking and being able to see things and thinking, I want to be able to do that. And, for me, again, mindset cannot be taught, but skills, business can be. And with the systems and the technology that we have, as long as you've got an open mind and, it's very, like, again, if I do recruitment now, like it's not handed to you. You've got to work for it. And it's the same now from the franchise. Like, I can give you this, but I can't spoon feed you. Your success ultimately does come down to you and how you manage these skills. I can give you all the tools, but what it does is it comes down to you. And I think this is what I mean. It won't be everybody, but, if I had 10 people, with the same mindset and wanting to do that, for me, it's about, it's not a money thing for me. If people want to come and franchise my business because they want money, they're not for me. It's about the journey that they go on, because I believe at the core of it, it's about how we treat our clients. Beauty is a form of self-care. The team that you bring on, they don't need to be the big dogs, but they need to be part of something and feel the culture, So like I say, that's not for everyone, but I'm okay with that.
Why Bahrain though? Like, was it just because Daisy was there, or you really wanted to be there?
I see a lot of opportunity in those areas. It reminds me of when I first opened Khalifa City. And I've got a couple of other things in the pipeline for, inquiries and stuff in other, the other countries surrounding. There is, in our industry, what we can do for people is huge. It's not transactional. And some of these countries are really quite far behind. It's still very, very transactional. Like, it's quite surprising, like what people think marketing is, or like you can't even get a price list or look on a website. So in there is huge opportunity. And, with the way that we're going, that beauty is a form of self-care and wellness and seeing the woman, not just the hair, and understanding that the middle is dead. People don't want, they either want cheap or they want like value for money, the best. And it's not about the latest salon fit out. It's about how you make somebody feel inside that business. So
and the full experience, I think, as well.
Absolutely. Good hair isn't one visit. It's about how you talk to the client and keep them coming back and building that relationship. So look, I see a lot of opportunity in these countries around us. And like I say, it reminds me of Khalifa City 11 years ago. But again, like I say, there's also potential for other places and other countries as well. It's not just the GCC.
And what kind of challenges do you anticipate, Tara, going into Bahrain or maybe another country? What challenges do you feel?
Do you know what? There will always be challenges. But I think after the last salon, Al Quoz, I learned some very, very big lessons there. Like, you think, right, let's get this salon open. Then you think, oh my God, now I've got to get it busy. Yeah. So for me, my role is specifically marketing, market research, knowing the market, knowing where, our clients live. We do surveys before we start, really doing that research into making sure we've got the right client, the right service menu. Obviously things are different, but for me now it is prepare. We prepare for these things, So with the experience of opening, and then obviously, making sure, because you've got two sides of the business, like the operations or the demand, and most of the time people are thinking about the salon fit out, the operations, and that's great because that's say what Daisy can do this, but my role specifically now, and where I've been doing a lot of my learning is into marketing, is into technology, into AI, like how we can do these things, how we can do it quickly, psychology of people, the power of selling and stuff like that. So that's where I've gone heavily into, and I really, really enjoy it. So I think, of course there will be challenges, but I think from the lessons I've really learned the hard way is we will make sure, like I had to back off from Daisy because we were getting so much inquiry. And then it was like, okay, right, we don't want to overfill. So it was like, it's a balance.
I guess when you think about 11 years ago and you opened your first salon in Khalifa City, really you knew nothing, right?
Nothing.
But you made a huge success. So going into Bahrain is now going to be like the picture is much clearer, I guess.
And it's so much simpler. We overcomplicate everything, like the service menus. Like doesn't need to be complicated. Yeah. It's about giving the right service and the right experience to the people and making sure that you know who your ideal client is. Because 9 times out of 10, this is the problem. People are marketing to everyone. You've got to, like we all know when we scroll, we think, oh, she's talking to me. So it's people, we're too fixated on the service, but not about the person. And if we learn more about behaviors of people, it's actually really quite simple.
What do you think, Tara, is one of the most underrated KPIs in the salon?
It is, there's a few. So I call them the money, I've got the money 5. So it's your average bill, your retail percentage, your treatments, your rebooking, and then obviously your new client conversion. Because so they're for me one of the main things, because you can see how busy somebody is, you can see how much revenue they're bringing in, but if you don't understand new client conversion and how many people are coming back, and are they actually rebooking that client? Because if they're not rebooking that client, they're not talking about hair plans, future visits, and building experience. For me, good hair is not one visit. You cannot, and they need to be on a plan. And then obviously when it comes to, we call treatments and retail, like it's not. It's about understanding that, especially here in the UAE, like if you want good hair, you need to look at the condition and the fabric of your hair every time they come in, and that changes. And home care is the insurance that keeps it looking nice on the outside. So for me, if you've got somebody high revenue, no rebooking, new client conversion, they're hemorrhaging clients. They're not going to come back, So I think you can, like we say, it's not one. For me, it's the full 5 that tell. I would rather look at the others rather than the revenue. 100% any day.
Because that's the representation of your brand.
Absolutely.
Because the journey is being met, which is what the expectations are, which is what the standards are that you set.
Yes.
Right? All of this time.
Yeah, for sure.
So moving forward, what do you think in the next 5 years, how do you see the hairdressing industry?
It's going to go 2 ways. It's understanding people need to get out of this. Honestly, this middle section is dead, because they're all going to be fighting for the same clients and undercutting people. And the understanding that beauty and wellness, right? It is a $1 trillion industry. The problem is they are both, this is a buzzword and this is transactional. But if people can really understand how to merge the two, and how you can go from being like mid-ticket to high ticket, but you can only be high ticket if you give value. So I see it in 2 ways. There'll be a lot closing, but there will be a lot thriving, and it's understanding you've got to understand the value of what we do. And unfortunately for our industry, it's transactional. It's a half head of highlights. It's a woman, it's a man that has their own story to tell. And the more we can make an impact on the way that they feel, the more they're going to talk about you on the outside, because it's about emotional connection now. Yeah. And like I say, with technology and AI, people want that human connection so much more. We all struggle. We know we do. And if you can give somebody more value every time they come in the chair by seeing them, you will fly.
We was having a conversation the other day, actually, and we was discussing, and, the statistics out there are saying that the hair care industry is going to overtake even the makeup in the future. So people are becoming much more in tune and aware with TikTok, with all of the social media, that, you know, hair care industry is going to hugely grow.
And this is the problem with our industry. People don't like to sell products, you know, and it's such a pain point in my own business. And now I'm going to take it up a notch. And, you know, every treatment that we built is from a problem that people face. All right. Problems that people face, whether it's here. Yeah. You solve a problem, right? And that's going to help maintain the hair. And then the home care is what's going to look after it, you know? But the problem is when you talk to hairdressers, it's like, oh, God, not sold a product today. Yeah. Because it's a mindset shift. And this is where, you know, we don't teach enough about psychology, sales in our industry as well, and how you actually connect with the person. So I agree with you, Jamila, and it's heavily where I want to take things.
You know, Jamila, this morning when I was getting my coffee, a lady stood behind me. So I was waiting to take my coffee and she was speaking to the cashier and she said, I'm here to get a coffee, but I'm here to speak to someone as well. I need the connection. You know, so it's like, this is what everyone is looking for. Human connection, really.
And actually, you know, we just had a training session this morning and we was talking about, you know, if we can just get hairdressers to understand, like, our clients are coming to us for the education. They want to know why, right? They want to understand. Yeah. And we were saying just one product, one conversation, one treatment. Just if everyone could just do that.
But do you know what it
That's
is?
like my new tagline. One product, one treatment, one conversation.
But the thing is, I was this person as well. Like, you have no confidence in yourself. Yeah. And this is the thing. This is where well-being is so important. Like, as a young hairdresser, you've got your own things, haven't you, going on? But again, that's where excuses. Work on it then, you know, get more confident, you know. Yeah. You have to have the love for the job. And I think
once you do it, you'll be mind blown how easy it was. And it was just like maybe bigger in your head.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Definitely. But it's like you see that person in your chair, and they're a client for life.
I have one more question for you. So what do you feel other salon owners are missing?
Everybody sees revenue. It's monetary. Or for other salon owners, it's about the next salon to tell a story to the outside, you know. And I think it's really intimidating having your own business and trying to keep everybody happy. But I think, you know, it's looking at who your team are. Do they have the same values as you? Because everybody is different. And I think the biggest thing for me was I don't want to be the same as everybody else, you know. So be authentic. What does your brand stand for? What are those values? So
keep growing, right?
Keep growing on that. Like, nobody wants to be the same. Yeah. So I think it is, you know, everybody's looking at what everybody else is doing. It's like, this is your business. Like, you've worked really hard for this and you've spent a hell of a lot of money. Just lean into that. Yeah. Lean into that, not what the other person is doing.
And people, I think, growing people. Absolutely. I think this is the biggest gift now that, you know, a salon owner could give to their team, is just to support their growth, because then the loyalty comes, right?
Definitely. But it's also understanding that not everybody wants it as well. You know, you can, you know, at the core of it, I think the bigger you get, the harder that is to control, you know. And I think if you really want something that everybody is the same and you can give it that full energy, you need to keep it smaller as well. Like, it's hard. You can offer education and stuff, but yeah, I think look, you grow with time. Like I say, what got you there won't get you here. So if you understand that at every level, you've got to keep going back, realigning, evolving. The next level just comes and it works, but you can't stay the same. You physically can't.
So Tara's journey shows that success takes time, hard work, consistency, and the courage to keep moving. So thank you, Tara, for sharing with us all your valuable insights.
Thank you.
And thank you for everyone listening. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with another salon owner or a beauty professional who could benefit from it. See you in the next episode. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep inspiring others.